There is something so encouraging about having a person in your life who knows you intimately and is completely devoted to you. They know your flaws better than anyone, but instead of tearing you down, they lovingly build you up. They see your sins, but they don't criticize or judge you, they intercede for you. In other words, they are on your side. Hey, this is Nate with the Pure Life Ministries Podcast, and this is episode 5 in our series On the Same Team. After Bob and Lori Ball graduated from our counseling programs, they had a totally different marriage. Where once there was animosity, suspicion, and isolation, now there was encouragement, love, and understanding. In today's show, I'll be talking with them about something they really focus on in their marriage: building each other up in love. That's what's coming up. Here we go. All right, so this is episode 5 in our series On the Same Team, and in with me at the studio are Bob and Lori Ball. Thank you guys for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All the way from Watertown, New York, or Carthage, New York, actually.
Yeah.
When did you guys graduate from the program? When did you graduate from the residential program, Bob?
I graduated in October of 2022.
Okay, and when did you... Oh, and we'll save the date of your program because that's part of the surprise from your story. But so the focus of today's episode is on how a husband and a wife should be a positive spiritual influence in each other's lives, right? Because this whole series On the Same Team is about how there's tremendous spiritual strength in a relationship, in a marriage, when the husband and the wife are united spiritually. I hate to have to do this. Normally, I would love to have you guys share your full testimony here as a background for what you're going to share in this interview, but we just don't have the time. Plus, for those of you who are interested in knowing this, the audience, we're going to be doing a full video testimony with both of you guys. And so that's why we can't unveil all of the secrets here. But I do want to just kind of touch on some points from your story as a background. You guys mentioned in our phone conversation a few weeks ago that you both grew up, and you're pretty just nominal in your faith.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
I grew up with a single mom, and she took us to church every week. But I don't think any of it ever really took. I fought with her, as most kids probably did, to go. And even just throughout my teenage years and even in college, it was just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I got to go just because it's what we're supposed to do. But there was no real meaning for it.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah. And same for you, Lori.
Yeah, same. I mean, we were in church every week, and I went to Catholic school, all K-12.
Oh.
So, I had a very good solid foundation and background, but same thing, I just never really had a personal walk with the Lord, I don't think,
Okay.
And I think that carried over into our marriage as well.
Yeah, sure. And so then on the surface, if somebody was looking in, it'd be like, yeah, everything's pretty good in terms of the marriage and...
Yeah.
But it turns out that you didn't know anything really about his hidden...
I knew a little bit about watching things online. I did know some of that a little bit. And even in the beginning, we would together sometimes do that, but I didn't know the extent of it. I didn't know how often. I didn't know then some of the other things that had happened.
Okay. Yeah. So Bob, you were hiding a whole double life.
Yeah, since we got married in 2003, and in 2006, I stepped out of our marriage for the first time, and so 10 years.
Okay. Now, all of that totally changed when your sin was actually exposed.
Right. Yeah, I had been traveling a lot for work, and she just kind of caught on one night. My phone had been off all night long, and I had been out with a girl, and the next morning she just started asking me a ton of questions about it, like, why was your phone off? Why, and I just thought I was going to lie my way out of it, like I normally do. But there was something that just finally broke in me. I was just tired of the double life, tired of everything, and I finally came clean about it.
Okay. So that was like huge for you.
Devastating.
Yeah.
Shocking. I never thought that would happen. Never.
So then you decided that you needed, like, something had to change. Like,
Yeah.
you guys needed help.
Right. Yeah. And so there's a local church that has a counseling ministry, and he agreed to go, but I mean, we went a few times together, and that counselor had told us about Pure Life Ministries, and she kind of right away had said that he should go to the residential program, but he kind of laughed and was like, yeah, no way. And but I knew that there was a wives program as well, so I was lucky enough to be able to at least do that, even though he was in a place where he wasn't ready for anything. But it really helped me because, we had probably 5 more years of really difficult things, and I got a really, really good foundation and learned some things about myself too, going through the wives program when I did then.
Yeah. So, like, that was actually when, like, you actually began to really walk with the Lord
Yeah.
at that time.
Yes. I needed my Bible for the program, and I couldn't find it. And I'd had it since I was in high school, and I really wanted that one. And it was packed away in our attic garage, and I found it, but I mean, I thought, like, now looking back on it, it's like I didn't even know where my Bible was,
Wow,
I had
yeah.
no idea. And I didn't miss it all those years, and so I really started learning the scripture, started learning about who God is, how he forgives us. I learned through the wives program, really a big part of it is walking in repentance for myself. It was really easy to look at everything he was doing and how hurt I was, but just beginning to look at myself and see my sin, and again, then learning how much God forgives and shows mercy to me, that helped me also just in dealing with him, which is a terrible way to say it, but just in going through everything that we went through. But it was life-changing to go
Yeah.
through that program then.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I think there's probably a lot of couples who basically, here's the crisis moment,
Mhm.
everything blows up, and then, okay, the husband comes to Pure Life
Mhm.
and goes through the residential program, the wife goes into the wives program, and so they're kind of tracking together.
Right.
It's very rare that a wife goes through
Mhm.
and she's now walking with the Lord,
Mhm.
and things are only getting worse
Yeah.
and worse and worse and worse with the husband.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that to me is just amazing. Again, we're totally hitting the highlights and just skipping over everything. I wish we could go into the depths of it because it's so amazing, but
Yeah.
people are just gonna have to wait for the video testimony to come out. Okay, so then, so now, like, Lori
Mhm.
is on track with the
Mhm.
Lord. Like, you have a real relationship with God.
Right.
Bob,
You basically kind of go off the deep end.
Yeah, I kind of went crazy for a while, literally. I
Moved out.
I eventually moved out. Like I tried to get help for a little bit, but I didn't really want it. Like I don't know. I just wanted my sin, and I just kept going deeper and deeper into sin. I recovered for a little while, thought I could beat it, but then just fell back even deeper and got into a very, very dark life.
Yeah.
And then eventually I hit rock bottom, and I was faced with a choice, and I came to PLM.
And the restoration is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, who you are now,
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm so sorry we can't go into all the details for people, but yeah, it's just so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So in this episode, again, what we want to emphasize is how important it is for a husband to intentionally being a spiritual encouragement to his wife and vice versa. So when you guys think about that, like Bob, when you're thinking about how do I be this positive influence in my wife's life, or when you're thinking about Bob, where do you guys start?
I'd say it always starts with prayer. Every morning I'm always praying for her. And if I know she's struggling, I will immediately go to her and be like, hey, do you want to talk about this? And can we pray about it? But even like there's times when like I'll see things, I'm like, okay, I just need to keep my mouth shut, but I'm going to pray for her about that. I think just that in general has been amazing. You know, and if I see, I don't know how many times like I've seen something where I'm like, okay, she needs to work on that, but it's not my place. So I'll pray for her about it. And like the next thing I know, she's coming to me talking about it. And I'm like, oh, you know, just seeing God work in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, and this is something we learned along the way, a big part of even, again, from the Wives program, just learning to take the time every day with the Lord in prayer and in his word. Because then even just sitting quietly, you know, he'll kind of reveal things that, you know, for you to pray about, or, you know, you might. So before, I kind of am a fixer and I like to talk things out. And that's kind of what I do for work too. So that was really hard. And especially in those dark days, I always wanted, well, what's wrong? How are we, you know, and I really, really had to learn that I had to take that to the Lord. And I would do that through prayer. And that's how still now the biggest thing is just praying for him if I see that he's struggling. There are times where we do have to talk it out or address it if I notice something, or, hey, you know, you're just hanging on your phone a lot in an evening or something like that, or whatever. Some things we do have to talk about and address. We can't be afraid to
Right.
communicate,
Sure.
but I always go to prayer first. You know, Lord, give me the words, or should I say something or not say something? And usually if I'm, you know, in prayer about it, I'll get an answer, you know, and I think that's helped us a lot because, you know, just the constant yakking or, you know, just talking or questioning all the time, it didn't work, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? So,
Yeah, I mean it's so good too, because when you're praying for somebody, I guess you can pray in the wrong spirit, but when you are praying in the right spirit, your intention is not, God, you know, fix this guy so that I don't have to deal with his junk or whatever, you know,
Right.
God, fix her so she gets off my back. It's not like that. It's like you
Right.
actually want this person to be growing. You want them to overcome. And that's part of being on the same team.
yes.
Right.
It's
Yep.
not like an adversarial thing. It's, I love this person. I want them to do well.
Yeah. And a lot of times, like she'll come up to me and just be like, hey, you're off today. What's going on? And it's just, and not only that, like, I would say back in the dark ages, as we call them, you know, if she would have done that to me, I'd be like, I'm fine. Just leave me alone. Quit your nagging. And now it's like, all right, this is what's going on. I really need prayer. And it's just been amazing to be able to have that communication and to have someone in your corner praying for you.
I guess if you know that the motive
Yeah.
is love,
True.
you're a lot more likely to, you're not on the defense,
Right.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yep. Laura, you kind of outed yourself when we were talking on the phone a few weeks back, and basically saying like that when Bob's sin was first exposed, you call him Bobby.
I
Should I be
do.
calling him Bobby? Bobby.
Yeah, it just depends on how long you know me, I guess.
Yeah.
Like all my family calls me Bobby.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
Okay,
just
okay.
like,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll stick with Bob.
All right.
But you kind of, you know, you said like when his sin was first exposed, you became a little bit of like police wife. You
Oh,
know?
yeah,
I'm
for
looking
sure.
for evidence. I'm investigating. I'm doing all
Yes.
this kind of thing.
Yes.
So if you fast forward to now, obviously, you know that Bob, he's still a man.
Right.
He's still susceptible to sexual temptation. That's
Right.
going to stay with him for the rest of his life. I mean, we're all in this fallen sinful nature.
Sure.
How do you handle that dynamic then where you want to be there for him,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't want to be overbearing? How do you handle that dynamic?
Yeah, so that was something I learned back the first time I was in the wives program. Bonnie was my counselor, but she was told me that the Lord will reveal to you what you need to know. He will help you to know if your husband is lying to you. And I don't even know that she could explain it in that moment, but it was kind of just like trust him, And so it took me a long time and I never did it perfectly, I'm sure. Now I'm much better at it than I was. But just to, again, be in prayer and giving it to God and saying, okay, I'm not gonna, I used to look at the phone bill, like just, that kind of thing. And it wasn't life-giving, which, the other counselor had helped me along the way after I was done with the wives program, like look for something that's life-giving. And if it's not, and when it's not, or if it's in the wrong spirit, I'm just falling into giving into my flesh too,
Right.
and not leaning on the Lord. So just learning to, again, pray for him, be in prayer about it, and know that I don't need to know the details. Even if he says to me, I've been struggling about this or that, I don't need to say, well, why? Have you been thinking about this person? Or what are you, I don't need to know what the exact struggle is. I kind of know when he says that, I get a sense for it, and that's it. I don't need to ask more questions about it. When before I would have, like, well, who are you thinking about?
Probing and
Right,
Yeah.
right. What are you tempted to do, or whatever. And now I know I have to be at peace with just really he's in God's hands and God is the one who's leading our marriage, and I need to just trust in that.
Okay.
So.
And I mean, obviously, I'm sure it helps to know that he's not hiding.
Right. Yes. And yeah, that's a part of it too. You do have to build that trust over time.
Sure.
But he's an open book now. Like I can look at his phone. He does have a password on it, but we all know it. Even the kids do. Everybody, So, everything is open if I do feel the need to check something. We do have the protections on too. So all that stuff is there, but, to know that he's walking it out really, of course, makes me feel less nervous anyway too. But
And I think too, again, what you're communicating is that the spirit that you're in
right.
is not, I'm trying to find,
Right.
because if you're in the wrong spirit with anything,
Mm-hmm.
you can find
Sure.
evidence,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when your heart is like, I want to be a support. That's why I want to know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Not to find fault, condemn,
Right.
or whatever, but to be a support.
Yeah. Well, and the enemy, that's what he wants us to do. So then if I think about that too, like kind of, do I want to be working with the enemy? Do I want to, I mean, if you think about it that way, it's like, I don't. I want to be in the right spirit of love and follow what God leads me to do. So.
Yeah. I know for myself, there's a really big benefit in living in community, because if I am weak in some area, but I want to stand strong, if I want to walk in the way the Lord is pleased with, then I can be open and honest about that. Like, hey, I'm weak in this area, or hey, I'm having a struggle in this area. And then they can help keep me accountable. It's helpful to know, hey, someone's watching my life, and they can, you know what I mean? They can kind of see if I'm walking out what I said I want to walk out.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's been extremely beneficial in our marriage. There was an incident not too just long, like 2 weeks ago, where I was texting somebody, a colleague for work, then all of a sudden it turned into something inappropriate from her. And I was like, no, like put an end to that. But I like immediately went to her and was like, hey, A, this happened. You need to be aware of it. And B, I need prayers, because it triggered so many things for me. And it turned into a huge battle. So I was very grateful to have that. And it's awkward, taking something like that to your wife. But it's like, if I don't do that, it's going to turn into something more.
Especially with our history and everything we'd gone through. Yeah.
So that has been very beneficial. And even just like on our day-to-day things, like, there's times when like I see her like struggling with some stuff at work, and it's like, she's just kind of venting about her day after work, and we're talking, and it's like, okay, maybe we should be praying for this person, and things like that in nature have been really, vice versa as well.
Yeah, I came home the other day and I was like, you got to help me. You got to talk me off a ledge. And his immediate response was, pray for him. And I'm like, that's not the answer I want. I'm mad.
Right.
But it's so true. And it was right. And after we talked, that was exactly the only answer to some of these things that we go through.
Yeah. And like we live in our own head. We live in our own self.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just go through life and we're not even aware
Yeah.
of how we're talking or what we're
Yes.
saying, or you mentioned like, oh, it's just buried in your phone. You don't even see it. The other
Yes.
person can see it
Right.
and give just that check, which helps us.
Yes.
You mentioned, like, I know one thing is really important for you guys is to have daily devotional time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would think that the accountability there would be so helpful because life can be so crazy and so busy.
Yeah, for sure. Every morning, I get up probably around 4:30, depending on what's going on, and then she's up usually around 5:30. We have our separate times, and then we've really been working on making it a point to pray together as well at some point during that. And I know the difference in my day between when I have that and when, oh man, something's going on and I miss it. Like, it's completely different and it's a horrible day. And it's like, I'll eventually just like, okay, I need to just stop and reset my day. But yeah, like, for sure, my daily devotional time has just carried me through this and making sure that she has hers. And like, even today, before we got on the road to drive down here, she's like, hey, did you get your devotions in today? Did you have time for that? And so
because we slept in a little bit, and I was like, I got out of the shower, and I'm like, did you get your quiet time? Because he was up and like packing and stuff, and he's like, yeah, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you would have had it, but we just kind of, or even if I get distracted in the mornings, he'll kind of be like, sit down and get, not in a mean way, but like, make sure you get your time in, and again, when I know that it's coming out of love, and that we, like you said, we're a team, and we want our team to serve the Lord, and if that's what our goal is, then we have to cheer each other on and encourage each other to do that. So even if he says like, I'll do this, you sit down, or whatever it is, I know it's simply out of love. Yep.
I think it takes humility for all of us, because you were talking also about when we had a conversation a few weeks ago that part of being a positive spiritual encouragement to one another is just inviting correction. Like, hey, if you see something in my life, please tell me about it.
Right.
That takes a lot of humility to invite that. Like, yeah, because we all have blind spots.
Sure.
And we all don't see certain things. And usually is it ever fun to see something that we haven't seen that's negative about ourselves?
Right.
Probably not.
Right.
No.
But yeah, it takes some of that humility.
Yeah.
Were there any times where that was really hard, but also really good? Any specific instances you can think of?
I think when it comes to how I treat the children or how I discipline them, like, she's been like, hey, you need to take a step back. Like, I can be kind of harsh, so to speak. So that's been hard to hear. It's never easy to hear. It's never, no matter what
Like
the
you
subject
said,
is.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely growing in that aspect. Like, it's one of the, when I was leaving the program, I can remember saying to Ken, I'm like, Ken, I don't know how to be a parent. Never had a dad.
Yeah, and so for you to bring that correction in, like, hey, the way you said this was a little harsh or whatever.
Right.
That's like the voice of the Lord for you in that moment. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because that's an opportunity for you to say, yeah, that's right. I don't want to be like that. Whereas without that encouragement, if you're just by yourself, you do what's right in your own eyes in a way,
Right.
And the
Yeah.
Lord can bring conviction, but sometimes he just brings conviction through a brother or a sister who says like, yeah, that was off. And you said that that's actually changed you.
Yeah, like I feel I'm still not like the world's greatest dad by any means, but I'm definitely like growing in leaps and bounds with it, I would think. I know, especially like there was an instance when I was home. I got home for like 2 weeks or not 2 weeks. I'd been home about 2 or 3 months. And I ended up just like having this huge blow up with the kids. And then like, and I knew, I was like, holy cow, I just really messed up bad.
Right.
And, but I repented to God. I was like, God, you got to help me. I just really messed up. Like, I don't even know where this came from. And I went around to each of my kids and I apologized to each one of them. And I said, I really want to come to you and repent. And my daughter's just like, yeah, whatever, Dad. And I was like, Ellie, have I ever apologized to you for anything? And she's like, no, you haven't. So, and I was like, it's because I really mean it this time. And she just started crying. So I think they have seen the changes, over time.
That particular incident is funny because, again, before PLM, before my doing the Wives program, after he did that, and I think he went into the bathroom and, our daughter went upstairs. Everybody was just like,
what just happened?
I would have been running around trying to like talk to all of them. Oh, Dad didn't mean it. He loves you. I would have been like telling him to come out of the bathroom and fix it and go say sorry. But I just sat on the couch and I prayed. I was like, Lord, please come into this home and bring your peace. Like because again, it was just a change in me, like thinking that I as a human could fix it and I couldn't. There's no way I could. And just learning and knowing that God is the one who can do the mighty work, And yes, there are times when I go to him and we'll have to say something out of love, but God has helped me to discern in those, or the Holy Spirit, in those moments, which one it is. So.
Okay. One of the things you guys mentioned was when we were talking on the phone a few weeks ago was just how important it is to have spiritual community.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you guys are both really intentional to make sure that your spouse has opportunities, not just you guys being intentional, but like, okay, I want to make sure that Bob is able to spend good time with godly men or vice versa. That's a pretty big sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's been worth it. Like she has her Women's Warriors group that she does every Wednesday morning. And she has a group of great Christian friends that she can go out to coffee with and have breakfast with. And, and we just kind of like, okay, I've got the kid. Actually, our kids are at the age where they don't need a lot of supervision anyways. But, and then I have some friends that,
well, they do. I mean, we'll leave them alone for a
yes.
little bit.
Yeah, they're not just
they're
like
teenagers.
Oh, okay.
They need supervision.
It's like Lord of the Flies or something, but
Anyway, sorry.
So yeah, but I have a great group of friends that I've met through the church, and the same thing with that. When I'm struggling, I know I can reach out to one of them and be like, "Hey, this is what happened," and I could use some prayers right now. And it was kind of funny because the other day I called a friend and I was like, "Hey, I'm struggling," and needs praise. He's like, "Yeah, me too." So it was just a great opportunity to pray and just be accountable to each other and be able to check in and see how you're doing. And so that has turned into like a marriage thing as well, whereas we go as couples together and we're able to have Bible studies with that same our group of friends. And so it's just been great. It's been a huge blessing just to have that community.
Yeah, that was something we never had before. We didn't have a lot of even mutual friends before all of this happened. So just especially that we've found some mutual friends that are godly friends and that can walk through things with us and we can walk through things with them. It's been an amazing blessing. And it's really important because like you said, we can help to keep each other on track and we have fun with them, which not that I ever look down on Christian, but I mean, you have this perception, or some people do, maybe like, oh, we're going to go for a Bible study. I mean, and even our teenagers, they'll be like, oh, did you guys have fun tonight? Like kind of, it's like, yes, we actually did,
right.
But we really, truly do have laughs and have a good time with good Christian people, and it's just, we never had it before, and it's been amazing in our walk, for sure.
That's so good. I'm so glad to hear that because I know that I feel like I'm totally spoiled because I live at Pure Life. Anytime I want, I can have deep,
Yeah.
meaningful fellowship
Mhm.
Yeah.
with someone who is like really earnestly wanting to walk with the Lord.
Right.
Right.
So it's so encouraging to hear that you guys have found that.
Yeah.
And there's how can you live without it?
Right.
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 Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now we see that. Before we didn't. We didn't even know we were missing it. There's so many things that we didn't even realize we were just missing out that the Lord would give us. You know what I mean? But we didn't turn to him and look to him or ask him or anything. We just walked through life blindly, kind of.
And it sounds a little bit like on the surf. Okay, so again, going back to kind of the image of things, like on the surface, it would have looked like, man, this is a happy family, and they got they got money, and they've got they got the American dream, kind of, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, it sounds like from what you're saying that you're just like living separate lives.
Yeah,
I
actually,
mean,
100%.
yeah.
So now you guys are making an intentional effort.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I am being a help
Yeah.
Yes.
to my husband or to my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, we were just listening to a thing on the way here, and it's some guy, a friend of mine sent something, and he was saying how the things that were natural to you when you were dating, you have to be intentional about them as you are together longer. So like when you were dating, you always wanted to be together and hang out. You always wanted to do stuff, and those things were natural then, and it becomes less natural if you don't put in effort or be intentional about it.
And definitely one of the benefits of having like the marriage Bible studies that we do, once a month we get together with our friends, our married friends, and we have a Bible study. And we've really been able to share our story with them. And we didn't even know it, but one of our friends just got baptized. And we knew she was getting baptized, but after the baptismal, she came up to Lori and she's like, hey, I got baptized because of your guys' testimony. And so that was just like really like eye-opening to us. And we've also become part of the church, has a marriage ministry, and just like, so now we're like being able to do outreach as well through that. And just the Lord is just really opening doors through that. And just kind of being an open book about our testimony. Because you start talking about it and most people kind of look at you like you're crazy, but then there's always just that somebody who really needs to hear it. So
Yeah, and what she said specifically is she's walked through some awful things in her life and had a hard time, but she said, after hearing I heard your story, and I now know that God could forgive me for everything that I had done. And she said hearing our story helped her to see that God's forgiveness.
Wow.
So it was just really, and I had no idea. Like a lot of the stuff that she'd walk through isn't even specific to marriage, but just the way that we had, I guess, shared what we shared. We kind of just, I don't know. We were floored by it, but what a blessing, that she saw the Lord's forgiveness. So it was really neat. That just happened this week, actually. So
that is amazing. And I want to bring something out here. This is me. I'm a teacher. This is what I do. But like, if you guys weren't being a positive spiritual encouragement to one another in the day-to-day,
right,
you wouldn't be having that continued testimony for that moment.
You're right.
That's
it's not just a matter of like, oh, this thing happened in the past, and so I share it every once in a while. It's like, because you can get so weighed down with life.
Yeah.
You can get weighed down with kids. You can get weighed down with family. You can get sucked into social media and the internet. And now the testimony you had is like fading into the distance. You're not able to minister.
Yes.
So that moment wouldn't have happened without all that you guys are sowing into one another day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really important.
It is, for sure.
Can we talk about one more thing, which is like, how to handle free time, because
Mm-hmm.
as you're being this encouragement to one another, like, hey, let's not get sucked into the world, into television and
Mm-hmm.
movies and internet and stuff. It's kind of like, okay, now what do we do with our free time?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
How do you guys encourage one another to be using that time in a way that's helpful?
Mm-hmm. Well, so if we watch something, it might be like a chosen episode, or we have Pure Flix, so we might watch a movie there or something. But
Occasionally, yeah.
we don't watch a lot of TV, but we do both like to hike and go for walks, stuff like that, or I'll ride along when he golfs. But what else do we do for free time at home? We
I
do.
go hunting and fishing.
He
but-
hunts and fishes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Once in a while, I can drag her around with me.
Yeah, but it's not my thing.
I went hunting, I think maybe one time. Yeah, turkey hunting. Got up
Oh, nice.
super early.
Yeah, that's why I
sat in
don't
the
like it.
dark, didn't see anything. I was like, that's the last time I do that. So this is something you enjoy.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
He loves
Okay.
to be in the woods and nature.
Oh, that's
but-
so cool.
Yeah. But together, what we'll do is, again, like our church will do like these midweek kind of things. They don't always call them Bible studies because they might just talk about certain topics or something, and we don't take the kids. It's more of an adult thing, but we joke that that's our date night. So, but really it kind of is like it's about a half hour to the church. So we have great conversation. It's just the two of us, just doing those types of things, even though, again, it might sound like, from the outside, people would think, oh, that's boring or whatever, but it really isn't. It's meaningful,
Yeah, and you guys are, it's so good though. Like you guys have learned to be a godly influence in one another's lives. You are actively seeking to be a godly influence in your kids' lives. It's so good. Yeah, I appreciate you guys driving all the way down here from Carthage, New York, and spending the time with us. And again, for those who are interested more in your story, we're going to be filming that and probably releasing it sometime next year. So keep on the lookout for that. Thank you guys so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Okay, that's it for today's show. And our prayer is that this episode would really challenge you to become that encouraging person in your spouse's life, or if you're single, to a close friend or to a roommate. Because none of us are so strong that we can battle temptation alone. None of us are so wise that we don't need correction from the people that are closest to us. None of us are so capable that we don't need the strength that comes from someone else's words and prayers. So may God bless you as you humble yourself and become His love to those around you. Thanks so much for joining us on the Pure Life Ministries podcast. God bless. We'll see you next time.